Good evening, everyone. Great to be back with you again. And just going to have a look how many attendees we've got at the moment. Let's have a quick look. Just under 300. We're going to be smashing the 300 barrier this evening, I'm sure. And like I said, great to be back with you again. And welcome to Team Webinar. And if this is your first time here, I hope you're here on a regular basis. We're here normally once a month, and we'll tell you about our next event at the end of this webinar, of course. And just to let you know, this technology uses Google Hangout technology, which means that we can now have unlimited attendees. It's an extremely stable system. I'm always worried about saying that, just in case all of a sudden we have an outage. As soon as I do, one day we probably will. And of course, you can see on the page you logged in with that there should be Facebook and Twitter buttons. You can promote this, and you can get prospects onto this as well. Always can do, unless we tell you otherwise, of course, for any reason. But so make sure that your team know as well. Have a look in the attendees list. You'll see there's an attendees list on the right-hand side of your screen. Scroll up and down there, and if there are team members that you think should be in here and they're not on here, text them, call them, whatever, but make sure that they're in here for this particular webinar, of course. One of the things that we sometimes have is sometimes people do have one or two issues with logging in. Why is that? I don't know. Sometimes technology, this type of thing happens. On the login page, we have put a download for Google Chrome if you have problems or any of your team have problems. We normally suggest that's the best place to go right at the start. If you're having any issues, use Chrome. Because it's Google, Chrome is always a preferable browser to use. And of course, what I would ask you to do is to let people know about the A's, or show the people what we do to give people recognition. Because obviously it's very similar to a meeting environment, but there is, of course, nobody giving feedback. Kevin and whoever speaks on here doesn't know if you're there, so if you can use, like you can see down the side here in the chat, give the A's. It just shows the speaker and shows other people that that you're there and that you're alive, I guess. So we're watching this a little bit in delay. We're hitting about 320 attendees by the time you're looking at this, because we're about sort of 40 seconds ahead of you, if you like. It'll probably be a lot more, so keep people coming into this room. Now let's let you know about our very special guest speaker this evening. Kevin Ryder initially joined Clean Easy on a part-time basis, as many people do, for an extra £50, £100 a week to help pay the bills, but while he was still full-time as a driving instructor. And since he's joined Clean Easy, in addition to a fantastic full-time income that he now has, his distributorship has been awarded overseas trips to places such as Cannes in the south of France, Thailand, Venice, Miami, New York, and most recently, of course, Dubai. And Kevin and his partner Caroline were also awarded the much sought after Executive Cup back in 2012. So I'm going to now pass you over to the one and only Mr. Kevin Ryder.
Thank you very much, Andy. It's an absolute pleasure to be invited on here to speak tonight. There's been some absolutely Clean Easy famous people on here, and to be invited to share my story and my experiences and anything I can help to help you guys move your business forward, it really is an honour. So without further ado, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I joined Clean Easy in September 2002. I was working full-time as a driving instructor. I loved working with people, I loved teaching people, but I was absolutely crap at running a business. I didn't realise at the time, but I was about £30,000 in debt, but like most people, I was burying my head in the sand. I was hoping it would go away, and I really didn't realise how much debt I was actually in until joining Clean Easy and taking stock and sitting back and actually working out where I was and where I wanted to be. Now, let me take you back to 2002. I was 27 years old. I found myself laid in a single bed. I'd just split up from a serious relationship. I'd walked out at 3 o'clock in the morning, decided enough was enough, went back to my mum and dad's and just thought, what the hell have I done with my life? I had a failing driving school, even though I didn't really realise it at the time. I just said I was massively in debt. and my self-esteem, my self-worth, everything about me at the time was really, really low. All I ever really wanted back then, and still now, but back then it was, I didn't really realise, but all I wanted was to be a good husband, a good father. I was 27, and at 27 that was my life experience, and I thought, you know what, I've walked out of a serious relationship, I've no kids, I'm massively in debt, I'm no closer to achieving my lifetime ambition of being a good dad and a good family man. And I thought, what the hell am I going to do? What can I do? I was paying out £1,000 a month in bad debt, and I wasn't even earning £1,000 a month. And it just, everything was slipping out of my hands. Everything was just slipping further and further and further away. And I was at a point of, it felt like a point of no return. I was at a point of desperation. Now, fortunately, the next day, my brother actually knocked on my door, or he came round to see me. I was at my mum and dad's at the time, and he came round to see me. And he'd been shopping at IKEA, and while walking around the car park at IKEA, he ended up standing on a piece of paper that stuck to his foot, a bit similar to that. And that piece of paper, as he tried to shake it off his foot, it wouldn't leave because it was wet and soggy and stuck there. So he bent down, pulled it off his shoe, and read it to himself, and it said, "Earn extra income working from home." Somebody had obviously been carding the car park, and he wasn't interested himself, but he knew of my financial situation because he'd lent me enough money to know that I was struggling. So he brought that card home, and he handed me over that card, and he said, "Here you go, Kev, give this number on this card a ring." And I looked at it, and it said, "Earn extra income, £300 to £3,000 a month in your spare time working from home." First of all, I thought, great, Phil, thanks for being so cheeky, thinking I'm that desperate that I'm going to respond to a card like this. And as soon as his back were turned, I threw the card in the bin. Okay. Now, the next day, he came round to visit me again like he always did, and he noticed the piece of paper in the bin, and he said, "Did you give that number a ring? Did you find out what it were all about?" And I looked at him in the face and I said, "Come on, Phil, you've got to be sick. You've got to be joking. Who on earth is going to pay you £3,000 a month working from home?" He says, "I don't know. You never rang up." And that was the best advice my brother ever gave me. He says, "You're smart enough, you're wise enough to find out for yourself whether you think this is a con or not. Ring up the number and find out." So I did. And somebody sent me a video through the post. We had videos back then, okay? Some of you younger ones might not even know what a video is. No, I'm only joking. But he sent me a video, someone sent me a video through the post, and I looked at that video, and I just thought, there's got to be some element of truth to this. I could be anybody requesting that information. And when I looked at that video, I thought, okay, these people must have absolutely worked their backsides off. I'm not looking to become a millionaire. All I want is an extra few £100s a month to help me get by. So if they can do it, I'm sure I can. So I spoke to the person who sent me the video, and after looking at the business and seeing exactly what was involved, getting it explained to me, I kept the guy in my house for 2 hours, and I asked him every single question under the sun. How much traveling do you do? How many appointments do you do? How far do you go? What do you do? I asked him everything, and it was genuine and he was honest, and I liked him. So I liked the video, I liked him, I liked the idea, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a go. And that pretty much is what everybody's looking for, guys. All they want to know is this a genuine opportunity? Do I like the person showing me the business? And do I think I'm going to get any help and support? And if you answer those 3 questions, and you're the people buy into you, then they will join your opportunity. But that's besides the point. That isn't what I'm here to talk about. So anyway, I decided to get involved. In my first 4 weeks, I made £233, delivering and collecting catalogues in between driving lessons, no more than 8 to 12 hours a week. Then after 6 months of doing that, I went along to my very first showcase, and at that showcase there was 5,000 people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all career disciplines, and so many of them were walking across that stage as gold distributors and getting £1,000 checks, and people going across that stage getting £3,000, £4,000, £5,000, £6,000 checks and beyond. And I just saw these people and thought, do you know what? If they can do it, I can do it. I thought, if I can just make an extra £1,000 a month alongside my full-time job, how much that would turn my life around. And I ask you this question: how much, or what difference would an extra £1,000 a month make to you right now? Think about it, because that's an extra £13,000 a year in the Clean Easy calendar. What would you do with an extra £13,000 a year? Because within 6 months of that seminar, I was earning £1,200 a month. Okay? I'm now currently earning, and I don't tell you this to impress you, there's people earning a lot more than me in Clean Easy. There's people on this webinar earning a lot more than me. But I now earn £3,500 every 4 weeks, whether I get out of bed or not. That is financial freedom, guys. My bills, my family's bills, are paid every single month, whether I work or not. That gives you choices. Now, I believe there's only one thing that's helped me get from where I was to where I am today. And believe me, where I am today is not where I'm going. I've got lots of other ideas and ambitions and things that I want to see through, and using Clean Easy as the vehicle. But the one thing that got me from where I was to where I am today, besides Clean Easy, is personal development. Okay? I swear, hand on heart, I swear to God, personal development is the one thing that's going to get you from where you are today. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with where you are today, okay? But I'm sure every single one of you wants to be somewhere else, somewhere better, no matter where you are today, okay? Because that's what life is about. It's about growing. It's about ambition. It's about moving forwards. And what we know has got us to where we are today, but it's the skills, the philosophies, the ideas that we can adopt on that will get us from where we are to where we want to be. So I'm going to share a bit of information with you on personal development, particularly beliefs, because I believe it's your beliefs that hold you back. Okay? So if you just bear with me, I'll bring up my slides. Okay, it's a little bit slow at my end, do apologise. Okay, so personal development. Just a couple of questions to ask you. Is it possible, like me, you think you've heard it all before? Is it possible, like me, you think you don't need to read any books or listen to CDs? Is it possible, like me, you think it can't be that hard? And is it possible, like me, your ego is stopping you from seeing what needs to be done? Because it took me 6 years, guys. I got to £1,200 a month in my first 12 months in Clean Easy. But it took me a further 6 years of listening to people telling me what to do, how to do it, and everything else before I even started to open my mind up to the possibilities of what is available. It took me 6 years to start listening to people like Neil Young. It took me 6 years to start listening to people like Rob Foster. These people that were earning massive money, and I'm saying, oh, what do they know? Don't be me, guys. Open your mind up. Because I also heard that your mind is like a parachute. It has to be open in order for it to work. Okay? So, we do what we do, not because it's all we can do, but it's because it's all we believe we can do. We are capable of so much more, but if we only believed that in the first place, because it's our beliefs that hold us back. You see, if you change the way that you think, you will change what you believe you can do. And if you change what you believe you can do, you will change what you get. Okay, so most people want to change some of these areas in their life, or even all of these areas in their life. Think about yourself. Would you want to improve your health? Do you want to change your financial situation? What about your business? Is it where you want it to be, or do you want it to grow more? What about your relationships, your friends, your family, your loved ones? And what about your possessions, your house, your car, the holidays, the things that you own? Is there anything there that you want to change? So why don't they do it then? Why don't people do it? If people want to change these areas, if people want to do something about these situations, why don't they? I'm going to share with you a story. Okay? This gentleman, this guy, goes to work every day, walking up and down the street, and as normal, as he's walking down the street to work, he hears the usual day's traffic and birds singing in the trees and people talking and dogs howling. But there's one dog in particular that every day when he walks past this dog, it's just constantly howl, 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 howl. And he's just making whinging and whining and moaning and groaning all day long. And on his way home from work, it's just doing exactly the same all day. Until eventually one day, he just thinks, I've heard enough of this. I'm going to go speak to the owner of the dog and find out what the problem is. So he walks past the dog, up the pathway towards the house, knocks on the door, and the gentleman opens the door, and the guy says, is that your dog at the end of the path that keeps howling? He says, yes, yes it is. Why? What's wrong? He goes, why on earth does the dog keep howling? He says, because he's sat on a nail. He says, well, why don't he just get off it then? Because it doesn't hurt him enough. And the guy looks at him and thinks, it doesn't hurt him enough. And don't you know lots of people in life, maybe people you've worked with, maybe family members, that just keep howling all day long about their problems, their challenges, how bad their financial situation is, how bad their health is, how bad their business is, and yet they do absolutely nothing about it because it just doesn't hurt enough. Okay? So, the choices we make are based on two things. Okay? Oops. The choices we make are based on two things. The first thing is pleasure. The second thing is pain. You see, in its lowest form, everything we choose is whether it's going to move us towards pleasure or away from pain. Okay? So what if I get no orders? Is the pain that people often think about before joining Clean Easy. What if no one joins my business? Is often the pain that people think about before and during their lifetime in Clean Easy. What if I pay for advertising but no one replies? What if I put in hours of work and then it doesn't? What if I put in years of work and then it doesn't? These are the potential fears, pains that people think about that stop them from taking action. Because most people need security and comfort. They like an element of certainty. Tony Robbins says your life will be in direct reflection to the amount of uncertainty you can handle. In other words, your life will be as exciting as the adventures you can cope with. But most people are afraid of uncertainty. Most people need that security, that comfort blanket, that I know what's going to happen next feeling. You see, most people get a wage, they have a job, they have some sort of what they believe to be security. And that wage pays their bills. It means there's no risk. It means it puts a roof over their head. And they just think, well, we'll survive. They'll moan and they'll groan and they'll howl, but they won't do anything about the situation because of the fear of moving off that nail. Okay? So most people just decide to stay where they are. I hope you're not one of those people. I hope you are willing to take a few chances and read a few books and step out of your comfort zone to move towards the things that you want. Let's face it, you've joined Clean Easy in the first place, so you must be a kind of person that sees something out there that's worth grabbing or aiming for. Let me share another little story with you, another example. There's a soldier, okay, and this soldier has done something bad, all right, seriously bad. In fact, his commanding officer has put him forward in front of a firing squad. So this guy, this soldier, has a choice, okay? His commanding officer says, look, what you've done is extremely bad, so we're either going to shoot you or you've got a choice. You can go through this door at the end of the corridor. And the soldier thinks, hang on a minute, I've got two choices here. I can either stand in front of a firing squad, which is certain death, or I can go through this door. So he turns around to his commanding officer and he says, what's through the door? And the commanding officer says, I don't know, son. Nobody's ever returned. So the soldier thinks, hang on a minute, that door might be worse than firing squad. It might be torture, pain, eternal suffering. I think I'll face the firing squad. At least I know what I'm going to get. And the soldier then opts to get shot, and the next day the soldier is shot and killed. Index. All right, life over. You see, the reality of the thing is, only 10% of people in that real situation would consider the door. Okay, that's the fact. Because people need an element of certainty. And if they think that one option is worse than the other, then they won't take that risk. You see, that's like most people. Only 10% of people will actually get off the nail. Okay? And the even scarier thing is only 3% will stay off it. The other 7% will go back to what they're familiar with, their comfort zone. Because stepping off the nail was a little bit risky, a little bit uncertain. So how to change your results? Okay? How do you get off that nail and stay off that nail? Okay, so every single result starts with a thought. Okay? And if you have similar thoughts about something, they will become your beliefs. Okay, so if you've more than one reference, it will start to create your beliefs. And your beliefs start to create your self-image, how you perceive yourself, how you come across. Now, your beliefs and self-image form your attitude. Okay, and your attitude is either a positive attitude or a negative attitude, depending on your beliefs towards any given subject. So you're either leaning towards it, which is a positive attitude, or you're leaning away from it, which is a negative attitude. Your attitudes then also create your feelings, and your feelings and emotions create your actions. It's actually the actions you take are based on 80% of how you feel, and the other 20% is your mind making a logical reason for it to happen. Now, some people have said, well, I'm more logical than emotional, and then they spark up a cigarette. Okay? That's because people who smoke, and I'm an ex-smoker, the reason they smoke, it's an emotional attachment. Okay? It's not a logical decision, because logically, we know not to smoke cigarettes, they kill us. But emotionally, you still have that cigarette because you have an emotional attachment to it. So it's your emotions and feelings 80% of the time create your actions, and then your actions create your results. So the thoughts are the cause and the results are the effect. Cause and effect. Okay? What most people do is they change their actions believing that that will change their results. So if I do something different, I'll get a different result. Great example of this, myself, I know that I'm overweight, so I changed my actions and went on a diet. But I didn't change my thoughts. So eventually, my thoughts actually started creating my actions, and my love of food and my beliefs over wasting food and things like that created the actions that I still ate everything on my plate instead of throwing it away when I'm full. Okay? So, for example, if you don't change your thoughts, you will never change what you're getting. So if you don't change what you're thinking, then you'll never change what you're getting. It's not changing your actions that changes your results, because that is only temporary. That will only last for a short period of time. Because if you've still got the original thoughts, the original beliefs, the original attitudes and the original feelings, eventually you will go back to taking the original actions. So you need to change your thoughts if you want to change your results. I hope that makes sense. So where do our beliefs come from? Okay, where do we get all this information? When you're born, guys, this is a fact. Every single person on this planet was born with only two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Okay? So we are like an empty computer. Everything thereafter is programmed into our brain. Okay? So where does this programming come from? Where does this information come from? Bear with me. Okay, well, let's start with significant others. Who are significant others? Well, to start with, the parents. Okay, and the information that we get from our parents goes into our brain, and because we love and trust our parents, we believe everything they tell us is true. But they're telling us everything that their parents told them. But it doesn't mean it's true, it's just what they believe. Okay? Then, after your parents, you start to go to school, and significant others become your teachers, people that you trust and respect. And then also you start to form relationships with other kids, friends, you get your best friends, and you get their parents' input, and their parents' information, and their parents' values and beliefs. And they start to tell you what they think and their opinions, and then you start to form more opinions. And this becomes more beliefs as you get more and more thoughts. The media. As you get older, you start to read newspapers, you watch more TV, you listen to news channels and things like that. And you start to get more and more information, other people's opinions, other people's ideas, and you start to form your own beliefs. Okay? And then you start having your own experiences. Okay, which then support your beliefs or support your thoughts, support your feelings. But what you've got to remember, guys, is that beliefs are not truths. Just because somebody says something and you believe it, it doesn't mean it's a fact. All right. So a good example of that is not too many years ago, the population of the world believed that the world was flat, and you would sail off the edge of it if you went too far. And anybody who actually challenged that belief and said, you must be joking, the world is round, back then there'd have been a lynching mob ready to hang them, ready to kill them or whatever, because it totally defied everybody else's belief. But the truth of the matter is the world is round, and for anybody to say to you now that the world is flat, you'll just absolutely say, don't be stupid, you're an idiot. All right, we know that the world is round. They used to believe that the sun went around the earth, but now we know the earth goes around the sun. So be very careful what you believe. Not long ago in the 80s and early 90s, they said if you had AIDS, you were going to die. But we know now that that's not a truth. There's tablets and pills and things out there that prolongs people's life. They said that exercise was bad because it would encourage the onset of AIDS, where now they say exercise is good because it helps your body oxygenate its blood and everything else like that, it keeps you fit. So you've got to be very careful what you believe and what you listen to. Okay? So a collection of beliefs then gives us our self-image. What you believe about yourself starts to create your own self-image. So if you've got a lot of negative input, that's why people start saying to themselves, oh, I can't do this. You know, I'm not worthy. I must be perfect. So many people are afraid of making mistakes. The amount of people that I talk to think, oh, they don't have a go because if they get it wrong, do you know what? I think the best thing in the world is getting things wrong, because then you learn how to do it right. If we haven't made mistakes, if people went through life trying to be absolutely perfect, then in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, we'd still all be living in caves or sitting on the floor, because I'm sure the first lot of chairs and that made collapsed. Okay, the first time people tried to invent aeroplanes, they fell off roofs, people died, they made the biggest mistakes they possibly could. But if those mistakes hadn't been made, we wouldn't be jumping on jumbo jets now flying from England to Australia. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. That's how we learn. And there's no mistake that you can make in Clean Easy that's going to be life-threatening, I promise you that. I'm not good enough. Do you know, that was one of my biggest fears. That was one of the things that held me back, and I'll show you why in a moment. But I believed I wasn't good enough. I used to look at people on that stage like Rob Foster and Gavin Scott and other people, Peter Ear, and I used to think, oh, they're wonderful, I could never do that. But it was personal development that helped me realise that they're no different to any other person on this planet, and we can all do that. If we just did what they did, we'd get what they got. Okay? And another one that holds people back is, what if I do all this and nobody loves me? That is one of the biggest fears of most people. What if I fail? If I fail, if I make mistakes, nobody will love me. And that's just not true, guys. Here's an example to try and help you understand beliefs. Let's say, for example, that this tabletop is a belief that you hold. It's a negative belief. And that belief is supported by references, past experiences, things that you can associate with, that you can remember from your past that support that belief, that says, I'm right because this happened. I'm weak because I got beaten up. Or I'm no good because I was always picked last. Or anything that supports that belief. So this was my belief. I'm not good enough. And my references were, my teachers said I wouldn't amount to much. I overheard teachers saying that I'd never be any good. The kids always picked me last at school. I was absolutely crap at football. I was terrible at sports. And my hand and eye coordination was ridiculous. So people used to always pick me last. They didn't want me on their side. So it just supported I wasn't good enough. I tried my own business as a driving instructor and ended up £30,000 in debt. I could have said I'm never going to work for myself again. And that's what a lot of people do. They go out there, they set up in business, it fails, and they go get a job instead of trying again. And I've had some serious breakups in my past where it's left me heartbroken. And I've said, I'll never let that happen again. I'll never let anyone close enough to let that happen again. So if I have these beliefs supporting that I'm not good enough, no wonder it took me a long time to think, you know what, I can actually do this. So what did I do? What can you do? The first thing we need to do is change our references. Remember, your collection of thoughts create your beliefs. So you need to think about other things. You need to find where you've had successes. You need to look at the references where, yes, I did do that. I've had achievements, and praise yourself. It's a lot, you know, it's quite challenging trying to find 10 things that you felt you did really well last year. But I bet if I said, tell me 10 things that you did really bad last year, most of you won't struggle with that. So find 10 things that you did really well, or 10 things in your lifetime that you're proud of. New reference. What about when you swim a mile at only 10 years old? Okay, I didn't know any other kids in my school that could swim a mile at 10 years old. I was one of 16 people from 96 people who passed out to the regiment and passed through basic training and continuous training to go into the army. I was one of 16 people, and there were 96 people that started. That's because I've never been a quitter, no matter how hard it got. You failed your driving test, but you never gave up. That is one thing, that is one value I've always had. Never, ever, ever quit. Never throw the towel in. Just keep going. If you know you're on the right path, if you can see other people making a success of what you want to do, then just keep going. And remember, you haven't felt that happy since. Maybe it's worth taking the risk. Hence getting engaged again. Hooray! So those new references now created a new belief. Do you know what, Kev? I can do this. I absolutely can do this. And my business, once I changed that belief, my business shot from a gold business up to bronze exec in less than 2.5 years. And I'm absolutely proud of that fact. And you know, that's just because of personal development and changing my beliefs. And I know that anybody else can do that if they did what I did. So to change your beliefs, you must change your thoughts. I think we've established that. To change our thoughts, we must change our conditioning. What do I mean by that? Well, most people don't realize that they are conditioned into their beliefs. If I had a jar of fleas and I put the lid on that jar, those fleas would keep jumping and banging their head on that lid, and then eventually they'd realize that they can't jump out, so they start reducing how high they can jump, and they only jump as high as just below the lid so they don't hit their head. I could then take off that jar lid, and those fleas would never ever jump out of that jar because they've been conditioned into believing there's a lid on there. Okay? You may have heard of Pavlov's dogs, where the story goes that each time the dogs were hungry, Pavlov would ring a bell, he'd feed the dogs, and then eventually he stopped feeding the dogs, but every time he rang the bell, the dogs would saliva at the mouth and they would be ready for something to eat, believing they were going to get fed. They were conditioned into every time they heard the bell ring, they believed they were going to get food. Okay? Here's another one that you might have heard of. Elephants, when they go to the circus as baby elephants, are chained up with a chain around their leg. So no matter how hard they pull, how hard they try to get away, they cannot pull that stake out of the ground or snap the chain, until eventually they just give up trying to escape. They realize it's a waste of time, it's a bad effort, why bother trying? So as an adult elephant at the circus, they can be pegged to the ground just with a small piece of rope and a wooden peg. And that elephant will never escape. There's been elephants known to die in fires because they believed, what's the point of running away? I can't get anywhere. You need to think about, where have you been conditioned? What are your limiting beliefs? What's holding you back? What is it that you believe you can't do, yet other people around you are already doing it? Because you're no different to anybody else. You've really got to believe that. You've got to see what other people are doing, you can do. Because it's the garbage that's been put into your head that's been producing more garbage on the outside. They often say, if you want to see how a person feels on their inside, look at their outside. Look at the world they live in. Look at how they live. You've seen these hoarders that hoard all the junk. It's not because they're dirty people. It's because of the rubbish inside the head. It's because of some emotional baggage, something, a death, or something, a fear of loss. It's some belief inside their head that creates their outside world. And we are all exactly the same. In fact, Danny Johnson once said, show me a photograph of somebody who hasn't got any problems and I'll show you a picture of a liar. And that's what Danny Johnson said. We've all got our baggage, guys. We've all got our garbage. But what we need to do is reprogram our mind. If this dirty glass is your mind, or my mind, full of bad information, full of negative junk, full of stuff that we don't need to hear, okay, how do we change it? Well, if we put good information in, if we wash it out with clean water, eventually we'll end up with a clean glass. We'll end up with good information in there that produces good results. So where do we get this information from? How do we start washing out our glass? How do we start changing our beliefs? Well, I recommend you start by reading this book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, because most of our programming comes from our internal chatter, our mind chatter, the garbage that we say to ourselves. Have you ever said something to yourself over and over in your head, but when you actually speak it out loud to someone else, you think, my God, that sounds ridiculous, that sounds stupid, but yet when you say it internally, you really internalize it, you emotionalize it. This book is an amazing book for changing the way that you think, what you say to yourself. What about changing your finances? Because it's not earning more money that people need to do. It's learning how to use the money that they already have. Jim Rohn says, who's going to trust you with a lot of money if you can't look after the little bit you already have? If you think about all the money you've earned in your lifetime, why is it 98% of people have less than £1,000 saved in the bank? Yeah. So, George S. Clason, The Richest Man in Babylon, fantastic book for changing your philosophies, your beliefs towards how to handle money. Brilliant book. So basic, the strategies in there are so simple, the lessons in there are so obvious when you read them. You think, God, why didn't they teach me this at school? 7 Strategies for Wealth and Happiness, Jim Rohn, God bless him. Amazing book. Do you know, I first saw this book, I don't know why I remember it, but you see how bright it is and it stands out. I first saw this book when I was 7 years old. I was holding my dad's hand, walking through Manchester Airport, and we were about to fly out to Spain. My first holiday, in fact my only holiday abroad with my parents. And I saw this book and I said to my dad, how can a book make you rich, Dad? And he said, I don't know, son, that's why I've never bought it. And I thought, oh well, I'll follow his advice, a book can't make you rich, so I never bought it. And then I saw this book again when I joined Clean Easy, and for some reason I just knew I'd seen this book before, and I knew when and where as well, because it just stood out. Okay, I wish I'd have bought it when I was 7-year-old. The Compound Effect, absolutely amazing CD set, all about the little daily activities that compounded together create big results. It's a fantastic CD set, guys, and book. Make sure you get it, put it on your list and get it as soon as you can, because this CD set will make huge changes in your business. What about the bigger seminars and things like that? Because this is where I learned a lot of information. I went along to weekend seminars with Danny Johnson. I invested money in seeing Alan Pease. I went to see Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is my hero. This guy changed my life. And the money I spent to go see him, I've seen him 4 times now, and the money I've spent to go see him, people say, how can you spend that much money? But you know what? That money has now created me an income of £3,500 every 4 weeks. I've had that money back 100 times over, easily. So that's why it's worth spending the money, because it made so much difference to my life that I'm now financially free. You see, it's not about doing the things to have the possessions. You've got to become the person. You've got to adopt the values, the attitudes, the beliefs, the preferences. You've got to put this information into your body, into your mind, so that you can start to become the kind of person that does the things, that gets the things that you want to have. Okay? So it's be, do, have. It's not do, have, be. You don't do the actions to get the things and then all of a sudden you become the person. I hope you understand that. You've got to become the person first who does the things that's required to get the things that you want. You see, it's not what you do, it's not where you've been, but it's who you become. It's about creating yourself. It's about changing yourself. It's about becoming the person that you want to become. And you can only do that through changing your thoughts, through personal development, reading the books, attending the seminars, listening to the CDs, downloading the audible books, whatever it takes to change the 6 inches between your ears. Guys, I hope that's helped. I hope that's importance of personal development. And I'll hand you back over to Mr. Boswell. Thanks very much, Andy. Cheers.
That was absolutely brilliant. I hope you guys have been taking notes while that's been going on. We have recorded it, so hopefully you'll be able to see it again. And if anybody in your teams have any issues getting on here, they'll be able to watch it again, of course. But some great information there, certainly to start the year to help your business off to a flying start, and I'm sure with all the enthusiasm with K-Life as well as all the normal clean easy stuff, and I don't know about you guys, I'm seeing some fantastic results from the normal catalogues. They've done a brilliant job this year. It really is set to be a fantastic 2015. Now, I have had some people, I've been looking on some of the Facebook groups, our own one and obviously Clean Easy's one as well, that are having the occasional problems coming in. You may well have known, or people may have told you. And whilst Kevin was on there, I've been doing a little bit of experimenting with some of the other browsers. As you know, we recommend Chrome, and we're going to continue to say to your team in future, make sure that they've downloaded Chrome and watch it on that, because there was certainly an issue with Internet Explorer. I don't know how many people are watching this evening on Internet Explorer, but certainly I checked in a couple of computers and there was an issue. So just be warned on that one going forward. Until we say otherwise, probably best just to stick with Chrome, you know, because obviously we want to make sure you have the best experience, and so do your team. Now, next month we have Premier Distributors and former Distributors of the Year, of course, Mike and Jean Day. So make sure that you are on here for that. That's going to be a fantastic webinar. Mike and Jean have got a great business, a great turnover. They had a serious increase last year in their business, and also they had quite a few of the teams, their team, winning the trophies. So make sure you're back for that. And if you have joined us to find out about our business, of course, after watching this, we will play a short video, only about 6 minutes, something like that, with a variation of our normal opportunity video, but also some online stuff on there as well, of course. And watch that, and do feel free to get back to the person that actually introduced you into this webinar to speak to them about it, of course. So don't forget to give Kevin your feedback. We'll see you back here next month. We will enable the chat and the video, and play the video out, of course. So thank you very, very much for joining us, everybody, and good night.